What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today I'm bringing you my first place local profile for Super Quantums, or more commonly known as like the Power Ranger deck, which is really awesome. Now I had a lot of fun with this deck. I'm going to take you through the entire profile, show you the main, the extra, and of course a side deck as well to give you a bit of an idea. I'll walk you through my matchups. I'll also talk you through the deck, the strategy, and how it kind of works, because this is a really fun deck to play around with. It kind of has the tower-esque effect like Lunar Lights right now, but it also has added layers on top of that. So unlike Lunar Lights, is a little bit more uncommon, so a lot of people don't know how it plays or utilizes. It kind of has the feel of Holly Sue from Vanquished Souls, because with Black Layer you can actually start to utilize some cards during your opponent's turn, like turn 0, which is really kind of cool as well. And then on top of that, you're just adding additional effects to your Super Quant Great Magnus, which basically says you can't search. So in a format where Drone Lockbird is running around, when you can make a Towers-esque monster that says you can't search, it just becomes really tricky for your opponent to try and utilize. So really good deck. I'll talk you through some of the little techs as well that you can play around with and kind of go from there. Now, as a note, it doesn't involve the Fiendsmith package. I know some builds do play that. I just went with the Terratop package as I think it gives you a little bit more versatility. Yes, the consistency is a little bit less, but it doesn't take up as much of the main or the extra deck as a Fiendsmith engine would. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you miss out on any more upcoming content. So the local environment was very casual for this one because a lot of people were at Euro, so this was a great place to test this deck out, which is really nice to do. Ended up like Shining Sark, there was Yugioh, there was Sky Strikers, Ashened, there was Sprite OTK, there was Raid Raptors as well, so like another tower-esque effect. So there was a lot of really kind of cool rogue decks, and it was kind of a nice way to test this deck out. My matchups ended up going up against Sky Strikers and Yugioh. Yugioh was a really weird one because I thought like they just don't care about towers, but that was still really cool. And then the Strikers one, like I made Magnus, they couldn't out it, kind of is nearly an auto win button. Anyway, we started with the brand new card being free Super Quantal Black Layer. This card is an absolute insane addition to the deck, absolutely incredible, like custom in my opinion. So all of the Super Quantal like Power Rangers themselves have two effects. They have a on summon effect, and then they also have an if sent to graveyard effect, and both of them are very easily triggered because they just need to be sent to the graveyard. So if they get detached from material, if they are sent via Foolish Burial, like it's just absolutely insane because it just doesn't care how it gets sent to the graveyard as long as it is sent to the graveyard. So the Black Layer's summon effect is when your opponent activates a monster effect, you get a quick effect to discard any other card. Now, unlike the White Layer that requires you to discard, send from the field or hand a non-light quantum, this card just discards anything. So it's like, cool, get rid of a Fluoros. In an ideal scenario, you do want to be sending a Super Quant monster, however, because this is on the assumption you're playing this during your opponent's turn and you have no cards in the graveyard. So its on summon effect is if this card is special, you get to special summon a Super Quant Mech Beast Xyz monster from your extra deck, using monsters you control as material, using this card you control as material. And if you do, you get to attach a Super Quant monster from the graveyard. Now the benefit of that one is all of the Zords need their corresponding Power Ranger to get a quick effect. So if you're trying to utilize this during your opponent's turn, you ideally want blue for Grand Pulse, so you've got a quick effect to pop spells and traps. You want green Ranger for your Ouroboros, which is a quick effect Book of Moon. Red Layer for your Magnaliger, which is a quick effect detached to destroy a monster. And then obviously you've got your White Layer one, which is a quick effect detached to negate a monster effect, I believe. I very rarely actually use the White Layer Xyz. Yeah, it's an effect monster on the field. It's a shame it's not like any card, but that would be really kind of cool. Its send effect is it lets you add a Super Quant spell from the deck to the hand, and the benefit of something like that is it gives you direct access to your Layer 19, which is your technical in-archetypal E-Telly as long as you control a Super Quant, and it can also get you into the Magna Carrier, which is the way that you can get into your Magnus, because obviously you discard cards and then rank it up into a Megazord, basically. We are then on free Blue Layer. This is like your ideal starter next to the Alphen. But this card on normal, again, or special lets you add a Super Quant card from the deck to the hand. So you can search yourself out a White Layer for an extender, you can search yourself out the Black Layer for an extender, you can search yourself out the... I wouldn't really go for anything else, to be honest. Like, you'd probably end up going for like the spell card if you want to extend into the Red Layer. There's just a couple of different options you can play around with. If it's sent to the graveyard, you get to target 3 Super Quant cards in the graveyard and shuffle them back into the deck, which is really nice to help you get in the grind game. I had to use it like once or twice, but then early doors, it's an effect you don't want to be using because you kind of want some of your Super Quants in the graveyard for your Black Layer in order to kind of get everything going. Then we've got 2 of the White Layer. So this one, you need to send a non-light super quant from the hand or face-up field to the graveyard to special on this card. So it's obviously a little bit easier to special summon itself rather than black layer, because the black layer needs your opponent to do something. But the benefit of something like this is when it is normal or special, you get to send a super quant from the deck to the grave, so you trigger off their send effects, which is really cool. And then if you do, this card's attribute and level becomes the same as that monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to add a super quant Fairy Alphen from the deck or grave to the hand. And obviously the Fairy Alphen is one that's going to be able to tribute itself off, reveal 3 different ranges in the deck, and your opponent randomly picks one for you to summon. The other 2 go to the graveyard. So again, really, really nice option on that. We're then on to Super Quantum Red Layer. You don't need to be playing 3 of this guy anymore. Like, you're not relying on its special summon effect. And on top of that as well, because you're playing either the Fiendsmith package or the Terratop package, probably more so with the Terratop package, you don't want to be special summon this. Like, you want your field to be open for the Terratop. The Terratop kind of really, like, debates your opponent a little bit, because what you do is you go Terratop and they're like, oh, they're on the Crystron deck, which happened to me in this first match because my opponent thought I was on the Crystron. And then I went, okay, overlay into... Now, I knew they weren't playing the Nibiru because I knew they were on Striker OTK. So instead of going for Gossip Shadow, which I normally would do, I went for Totem Bird. And it's like, they're like, what? And then I went, okay, cool, normal summon blue layer. And they're like, oh, Super Quants. So red on normal or special, you get to target a Super Quant monster in your graveyard and add it back to the hand, so it gives you a bit of recyclability. If it's sent to the graveyard, you get to target a Super Quant monster except red layer and then special summon it. So it's another way of getting your black layer back from the graveyard, which is really cool. We've got the one green layer. This is probably, like, in my opinion, the worst one, but you still need to play it. So on normal or special, you special summon a Super Quant from the hand, which is fine, but like you're not going to play 3 of this to do that, because if this gets negated, you just end up nowhere. And then red normally can special summon itself if you control no monsters anyway, and then black and white already summon themselves. So the only benefit would be to use this into blue, whereas you're better off just normal summoning blue and ending up with the same out goal. If it's sent to the graveyard, again, you have to discard specifically a Super Quant card to draw 1 card, but you can only use each effect once per turn. But again, that's absolutely fine, because you discard a Super Quant, trigger their graveyard effect, and draw a fresh card. Then for the fairies, so we do play 3 Super Quantal Fairy Zetan. So this card, again, is absolutely amazing addition for the deck. So if you control Super Quant, except itself, you get to special summon it. Then you can make this card's level become the same as the other one. So again, the benefit is if your blue layer, green layer, red layer, whatever gets negated on the field, you go, okay, cool, summon down Zetan. Zetan can then make it into the rank 6, the rank 5, 4, or 3 that you want it to be, or even the 7, and that's how you're going to be able to start accessing quick effects as well. You can make the same level as 1 Super Quant monster you control. You get to tribute this card and then send a Super Quant card from the deck to the grave except a dark to special summon a Super Quant monster from the deck, which is absolutely insane, because if you already have a Super Quant in the graveyard and you tribute this off, send one from deck to grave, which could usually be the red layer, because obviously it's not a dark monster. The red layer can then revive a Super Quant monster, and then on top of that, the Super Quant you special from the deck can be anything. It could be the 4, it could be the 5, it could be the 7, it could be the 6. Like, it's just insane how good this card is. And then we've got the good Fairy Alphen. So once per turn, you get to target a Super Quant you control. All face-up monsters you control become that monster's level. You can tribute this card to reveal 3 Super Quant monsters with different names from the deck. Your opponent randomly picks one for you to special. The rest go to the graveyard. Only use each effect once per turn. So really, really kind of cool on this one. It's quite important because the Fairy Alphen resolves around a lot of this. And what I mean is white layer searches it out. This is like an ideal normal summon for you. But you also need to be very, very careful, because if you tribute this off and they ash you, you get like nothing. The other benefit of something like this when we start looking at the spell cards is you need to banish this plus one of the spell cards to get you access to the Magna Carrier, which I'll get to in a second. We then play 2 layer 19 Sudden Incursion Super Quant Black. This again is just technically custom for the deck. So you get to activate one of the following effects, but you can only use each effect once per turn. So you target a tap position monster on the field, change the defense. Okay. Its third effect is you set a Super Quant trap from the deck, which we're not playing any, but you can do if you wanted to. Its main effect is if you control a Super Quant monster, you special summon a Super Quant monster from the deck with a different attribute from the monsters you currently control in defense position. So it's an E-Tele to get you into any of your other Super Quants, which is really, really kind of cool. Then, of course, we are only playing the one Magna Carrier. It's just so much easier to search now, like when you've got black layer to get access to it. And then, because you're sending Super Quant cards from the deck to the grave, the other way you can get to it is by banishing the Super Quantal Alphen Strike. Now, if you control 3 or more Super Quant monsters with different names, which is very easy to do now that you've added black layer and white layer, because remember, this card came out when we only had the first wave, which was blue, green, red, and Alphen. So you shuffle as many cards your opponent controls as possible into the deck. Then your opponent gets a special on a monster from their actually ignoring their summon conditions. So that's a little bit risky to give them that, but it depends on what they could possibly get to with no materials. The beneficial effect, or the effect you're going to use more than not, is you get to banish this card and a Super Quantum Fairy Alpha from your graveyard to activate a Super Quantum Mech Ship Magna carrier directly from the deck. So the fact that it activates it, again, allows you to play around draw if you've already been hit with draw. You can send a lot of your stuff from deck to grave, which kind of, again, bypasses draw. And then because you get to activate this is your route into your Magnus. So for those of you not familiar with this card, you discard one card to then target a Super Quantum monster you control. Special summon from the extra deck a Super Quantum Mech Beast Xyz with the same attribute as that monster you control by using this card as Xyz material. It's treated as an Xyz summon. You get to send this card from the field to the grave to then target 3 Super Quantum Mech Beast Xyz monsters with different names you control and or in your graveyard. Special summon a Super Quantum Mech Beast King Great Magnus from the extra deck, and if you do, attach all of those monsters and their materials to it as Xyz, which is really important because with Black Layer you now have more consistent ways to make Magnus with 7 materials rather than 6. And with 6, it basically meant that you couldn't use its detach effect, because if you used its detach effect, it meant your opponent could then start searching. But now with 7 materials, you have basically a free detach to shuffle a card on the field back into the deck, and then he's still there, rocking and rolling. So that's it for the Super Quantum cards. Now moving on to like the supporting engines and the hand trap. So the supporting engine I went with a choice was Terratop. You don't have to play this. There was a duel, like I kind of sided every time I was going second, I would side these out. But the idea was, I was like, okay, cool. I saw Talking to a Bog in my hand way too much. Game 1, I saw Terratop. I was able to use it. Great success, great use. Game 2, saw Talking to a Bog. I was like, okay. And then against Yugioh, I saw Talking to a Bog with no Terratop. I was like, bruh. So I would be siding these out. It was one of the ones where it's like, if I'm going second, I'm not massively worrying about Nibiru unless I know my opponent can search it. So if I'm playing Lunar Lights, I know they can search it, so I'm going to be a little bit more defensive. But then some of my side deck cards, it was just very easy to take some of these out and then put them in. Free E-Tele gets you access to your blue layer. So blue layer being, technically, it can still be a really good starter, but if you're able to start with your E-Tele instead of blue layer, it means your Alpha is then free to be your normal summon. Cool by the Grave, 1 for 1, because we now got Fairy Alpha and Fairy Zoltan. Bottle Prosperity, you've got a bit of flex in the extra deck, so you can play around with that if you want to. And then the hand traps of choice, I went with 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Mulchummy, and then right at the last minute, I decided to go with 2 Droll and 2 Imperm, just because I was being indecisive. So if you're a little bit more decisive than I am on this one, then you would decide which one you want to go at 3. You're probably going to go Droll at 3 than anything, but I still feel having Imperm in, it can still be quite useful for you. Because I kind of found like you don't really, in this current format, you don't want to allow your opponent to just go off. You want to have some form of deterrent. Very easily, you could swap out stuff like Ashes for a 3rd Droll and then go for something like a Forbidden Droplet, so that you're increasing your cards that they're going to get more success from them. And the benefit of something like Forbidden Droplet, which I definitely should have had in the side deck or even in the main deck, is that you're sending your Super Quants, so you'll get effects off of those. Speaking of the side deck, before I show you the extra deck, so for the side deck, I was on 3 Nibiru, the Primal Being. This was just mainly to flex the alt art, not going to lie. Never really came up, but I was like, you know, in the striker matchup, if I drop a nib on them, they're going to struggle a little bit. Yugioh, they kind of don't respect it as much. Yes, they have Phantom, but they might use Phantom on like Black Layer or whatnot. So something I wanted to try out, but like I said, I just wanted to flex the alt art. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. But this could very easily be the 3 Forbidden Droplet. 3 Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Like this, I left my Perulias at home, otherwise these would have been Perulias. But I still quite like this one, because again, it just kind of worked out for me. Because I was like, in a striker matchup, if I drop Phantasme against them, I've got targeted protection. And then in Yugioh, they would probably go through a Link monster as well. It's kind of one of them situations where if you felt it was going to be useful for you, you can utilise it, and it's a level 7, so you can utilise it for your rank 7 plays as well. 2 Pistiles, 1 Druid, 1 Magnum. Again, this was like, if I was going to go up against Mitsurugi Raizul, like I would put these in. I think I put them in against the Sky Striker matchup and the Yugioh matchup, which is fine. I could very easily see myself playing a Bull Drake as well. But again, instead of Bull Drake, I played the 3rd Droll. Just kind of, it was like the cards I had on me. Like I said, I was initially considering Sky Strikers, which was semi-ready, and Lunar Lights. And then ultimately at the last minute, I was like, you know what? I really want to play Super Quant. I want to just have fun at locals. So I went with that instead. 2 Lightning Storms and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and then 3 Solemn Strikes, which again can very easily be like 3 Forbidden Droplets. Another thing that I wanted to say about this deck is once we get to the Great Magnus, is you don't actually really mind about the Fluos, like taking the Fluos challenge, and the reason for that is, let's go with 2 Super Quantum Mech King Great Magnus. So this is like your main Megazord right now. So this card requires 3 level 12s, which you're never going to summon it this way. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to special summon 3 Super Quant Mech Beast Xyz Monsters with different names from the graveyard, which will be the materials that are used for it. This card gains these effects based on the number of Xyz materials with different names attached to it. 2 or more, you get once per turn during either player's main phase, you detach an Xyz from this card to shuffle a card on the field into the deck. 4 or more, it's unaffected by card effects except Super Quant, so the mirror match sucks. 6 or more, your opponent cannot add cards from their deck to the hand by card effects. So, the benefit of something like this is, if you take the Fluoros challenge, right, you can end your field on just Magnus. Like, you're absolutely happy to just end your field on Magnus. Unless you feel your opponent has a direct out for it, which I would be amazed. Like, apart from Vanquish Soul, I can't imagine any decks are main decking a Kaiju right now. Or main decking, like, Herald of the Abyss. If that happens, which would be a casualty, or like a casualty of Lunar Lights running around, then you need to be a little bit more careful. But what I mean by taking the Fluoros challenge is technically you would activate your E-Telly, that summons from the deck. You would activate your Z-Tan, that summons from the deck. You would then activate your field spell to go into all the 3 XZ. So that's 5 guaranteed draws your opponent's going to get off of it. And then a 6 when you go into Magnus. Honestly, you would take the challenge. And the reason I say you take the challenge is because technically you can end your field on just 1 card. And a lot of people forget that the Fluoros, because it very rarely comes up, has a secondary effect. That during the end phase, if the number of cards in your hand is more than the number of your opponent's cards they control plus 6, you must randomly shuffle cards from your hand back into the deck until you control plus 6. So, if you end your field on just the Magnus, which is very easily done because you destroy the field spell and everything, it means your opponent's only ever going to have 7 cards in their hand after they've resolved a Fluoros. So it's like, even though you've given them 5, and they start off with 5 and they draw 5, unless they're playing something like Ghost Ogre to stop you getting into Magnus, which you have a lot of versatility to get into Magnus, you take the challenge, they've got 10 cards in hand, you've got to shuffle 3 of them randomly back anyway, and then you're sitting on a Magnus, which basically says, you can't add once I make it, and then you can't out it. So if they don't have an out to it, you don't really care how many cards they have. All they'll be doing is just walling up, and you're like, okay, cool, wall up. And then you just start picking them apart with the Magnus. And once you've already taken the challenge, the next turn you can just build again. You're not going to make a second Magnus, but you can start then making your Magna Liga, you can start then making like your Ouroboros, like you just start making all these other XDs and start picking the field apart. But yeah, cards cracked. I do play the 1 Neo Super Quant or Mech Beast Magna. So this one requires 2 plus effect monsters, including a Super Quant monster. The Link Summon cards cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Each time a Super Quant Xyz monster with a different name from the cards you control is special to a zone this card points to, you get to draw 1 card. If a face-up Xyz monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effect, you get to special summon a Super Quant monster from the deck with the same original attribute as one of those destroyed Xyz. Now the benefit of this one, this is just greedy. But the idea is you would make this if you wanted to trigger off some of the graveyard effects, and then you'd do the exact same place. You'd go like blue layer, white layer, red layer, black layer, whatever. Make an Xyz, draw a card. Make an Xyz, draw a card. Make an Xyz, draw a card. Make Magnus, draw another card. And then you go, okay, cool, I've left my field on 2. But this is your greed one. This is where you get to draw 4 cards, which is just nuts. But you don't have to play it. There was a couple of times that I actually made it in a matchup. So, like, I don't mind it. Then we've got 2 of the Magna Liga. Like, this is the only one that I play 2 of alongside the Lustrex, which I'll talk about in a second. But this one is your rank 5 generic. It can't attack unless it has Xyz material. And then once per turn, you get to detach a material from this card to target a monster on the field and destroy it. It's a quick effect if it has the corresponding red layer as material. You can also attach a Super Quant monster from your hand or field to this card as a material. So again, it's just ways to add more materials to it. So that if you do want to make a Magnus, you make Magnus with even more materials, which again is a lot easier now that you have a lot more quantum. So if you do get greedy and do the draw, you just make your Magna Liga, you make your Lustrex, your Ouroboros, your Grand Pulse, and you just go, cool, attach, because they all have that effect. And like the cards you've drawn are just going to make your Magnus even stronger. But then it does suck even more if you do get Kaiju, so you know, give and take, bit of risk and reward. 2 Lustrex, so generic rank 7, which is why I was like considering, do I play the Kashtera package instead of playing the Terratop package? But even then, I really do like the Terratop package. I just think it's really kind of cool. But I can see myself, like, if I'm siding it out, like, playing the Kashtera package would probably be just as deterrent for my opponent, if not more annoying for them to deal with. So it can't attack unless it has Xyz, and then once per turn you get to detach material from this card, target effect monster on the field, and negate its effects. It's quick effect if it has the white layer, and then once per turn you get to attach a Super Quant monster from the hand or field as material. It'd be great if you could do it from the graveyard, but you know, that would be too broken. Then got the one Ouroboros. So this is generic rank 4, can't attack unless it has Xyz. Detach a material from this card, target a face-on monster on the field, change the face-down defense. Quick effect if it has green layer. And then once per turn again, attach a super quant from the hand or field to it as material. And then we do play the one Super Quantum Mech Beast Grand Pulse. Again, you can adapt these to the environment. Like if you feel you need to be dealing with more spells and traps, you can play more Grand Pulse. Again, can't attack unless it has material. Detach a material from this card, target spell trap. Is a quick effect if it has blue layer. Get to attach a super quant monster from the hand or field to it as material. Then the generic, so off of the back of your Terratart, I've got the one Totem Bird for spells and traps. I've got the one Bamboozling Gossip Shadow for Nibiru. Then we are playing a very heavy XZ, so I went with the Baguska. I mean, I don't think you actually really make Baguska unless it ends badly. Like, you can adapt the levels of some of your cards, and it was just one of the ones where I was like, you know what, if Lunalights can play Baguska and Magnus, I can play Baguska and Magnus. Baguska and Liger Dancer, I can play Baguska and Magnus. Never made it, like, this is your flex spot, take it out if you want to, but it's one of the ones that if the situation occurs for it and you've just been absolutely hand-trapped to death, you're still able to get 2 level 4 monsters on the field, whether you're adapting a level, whether you're having to special summon out your green layer and then normal summon a Fluoros, you just make your Baguska. Because we are playing XEs, we do play the one Zeus and the one Typhon. I actually made Zeus in one of my matchups because I was like, well, the Grand Pulse didn't have the blue material to be a quick effect, so I was like, I'll just turn it into a Zeus. And then I still had like the Magna Liger that could use this effect, I still had another card that could use this effect, and then I could use Zeus to clear the field off. So. And the last 2 Link monsters I play is the one IP Masquerena and the one SP Little Knight. Pretty standard on this one. I actually made IP quite a few times because IP, believe it or not, can actually work its way into the Neo Super Quantum Mech. Obviously, never did it that way, but it's just something that you can know that you can do. More times than not, I'd go into SP, and that's a disruption enough on its own. Usually, you'll go IP if you feel you can get Magnus as well, or you'd go IP instead of the Magnus route because you can't get to the Magnus route. You'll see, I've got a couple of duels coming out this week for the deck as well from the locals, so you can kind of see how the deck was piloted. I was a little bit rusty with it, not gonna lie. But I did really enjoy it. It was really nice to dust this deck off. I haven't played this deck properly for a while. Like, the new support is so good. And when the new support came down, I was like, I just need a bit of time to actually play it. And then I'm going all for it. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. A lot of fun. So really enjoy it. I'm not saying it's like a meta killer or anything, but I feel that you could really catch a lot of people off guard. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, questions below in the comments, more than happy to answer them. But stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.